And welcome to this episode of Behind the Badge. We have with us Chief of Police William McManus here with us. He's been kind enough to take time out of his busy schedule. Chief, it's been 2 years since you've taken command of San Antonio Police Department. An obvious question would be, now that you've been here for 2 years and you've had a chance to get to know the city and the department, how do we compare to some of the other major cities?
You know, the more, Marcus, I get to know the police department, learn the players and learn the city, it becomes more and more apparent to me that this is not one of the best, but the best police departments in the country. And I've not just the ones that I've worked at, but I've had exposure to a lot of different police departments through a lot of different police chiefs and conferences and that sort of thing. And we rank right up there with the best, if not the best.
Some of the changes that you've made have been obvious, such as changes in the uniform and walking through a warrant for family violence and other violent offenses. How have these changes helped the department?
I think that the changes have made a positive mark on the department. The whole idea behind making changes to make the organization better, but in order to make the organization better, the changes have to at least be understood and hopefully agreed to by most of the police department. I think we've accomplished that pretty much across the board.
Are there any more changes coming up that you want to talk about?
I don't think change is good just for the sake of change, but you know, as we go along and as we project and forecast, you know, down the road, look at the horizon, I think that you know, inevitably there'll be more change, and it'll be positive for the department, good for the officers, good for the city.
Many citizens have expressed how you seem to be more visible to the public and more accessible. How important is it to you, and how important do you think it is for the public that the chief be accessible?
I don't think you can run an agency, whether it be a police agency or any other agency. I don't think you can run it from behind a desk. You've got to be out there. You've got to be visible. You've got to be accessible. You've got to know your officers. They have to know you. And I think that if you're able to do that and balance the administrative part of it with the moving about part of it, you're better off as a leader.
Chief, before we talk about Fiesta this year, we've seen the public service announcements where you remind people not to drink and drive. We've also seen a short presentation that you made recently at Lee High School. We'd like to show that to everyone right now.
Are the folks who made that film out here, sitting down here? Yes? No? Still working. Would you all raise your hand?
Well, there's some behind there too.
You did a wonderful job. I can't tell you how moving that was and how powerful that was. How many of you here got a lump in your throat watching that? I did. How many of you in here don't know that you shouldn't drink and drive? Everybody knows that, right? Okay, then I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that you shouldn't drink and drive, but I want to just give you some things to think about, and hopefully you'll think about them for a long time. Let me tell you two quick stories. Several years ago, I lost a family member to a drunk driver. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, a place far away from here and a place that I'll probably never go back to. My family was very close-knit, and I had a big family. We all grew up in the same neighborhood, so we were all very tight. I got a call several years ago that one of my first cousins, was on her way back from the beach. She was being followed by her husband in his van. And when they were almost home, a car that was coming in the opposite direction crossed over the yellow line, hit my cousin head on and killed one of her children. And her husband watched that from the back as it happened. It devastated them for years. They were on medication and they couldn't work. I mean, their lives were destroyed. When I was in high school, I was a senior. I lost two of my best friends, both riding in the same car, to a drunk driver. I don't know if they were drinking or not, but the person who hit them was drunk, and those guys were killed. The effects and the devastation that causes are unforgettable. Did you ever hear of a movie called Signal 13? That was the 1960s version of Shattered Dreams, except it was a little more provocative, I guess, and a little more blunt, if you can be any more blunt than this. It was a little more blunt than that, a little more gory than that. They took us to an auditorium just like this, and they showed us a film of all these horrible, horrible accident scenes, and they were real. I mean, they showed you all kinds of gore, and it was meant to scare you into not drinking and driving. And it was pretty
How
effective.
important is this topic of DWI?
You know, Marcus, if you look at the numbers of people killed and injured, let's just narrow it down to Bexar County, San Antonio. The numbers are staggering, and it's devastating to see the number of people that are killed and injured, and the ripple effect that has on the health, the hospitals, the mental health communities, on marriages, on families in general, and the court system, on the police. The ripple effect that just waves across the city is just incredible. And taking all that into consideration, I think that the focus, the attention on DWI, I don't think you can overstate the importance of it.
Next, Sergeant Charlie Delgado with a closer look at DWIs and its effect on San Antonio. Plus, more with Chief McManus. That's next on Behind the Badge. Welcome back to Behind the Badge. I'm Officer Robert Dart. Today we're speaking with Sergeant Charlie Delgado with the Traffic Investigation Division. Sergeant, thanks for taking the time to speak with us today.
It's my pleasure to be here with you today.
Sergeant, what is it that you do with the San Antonio Police Department?
I am the supervisor of the day shift of the Traffic Investigation Detail here at the San Antonio Police Department. I've been supervisor for about 3 years now. I've been in the unit, though, prior to as a detective since '95, so I've been there for quite a period of time.
Sergeant, where does San Antonio rank in the number of DWI arrests in comparison to other Texas cities?
Comparisons to Texas cities were 1.7% above the average for Texas cities. Nationally, we're about 11% over the national level for DWI-related deaths.
Well, what do these numbers say about San Antonio? Is it a problem, or the numbers point to good law enforcement?
No, unfortunately, I have to say it is a problem for San Antonio. We do our share of attempts to enforce the law for DWI. However, we still have a problem here, and we have a serious problem. About 50% of all of our accidents are alcohol or drug related. We need to bring that number down drastically. I think if we concentrate on a lot of facets, we'll be able to reduce that number, but it's going to take a lot of work. So I think, to answer your question again, we have a problem, and it's quite a big problem.
What were the numbers in 2007?
Well, once again, here in San Antonio, currently as of 2007, 47% were alcohol related. 3%, addition to that, were drug related. So in totality, drug or alcohol related, we have a total of 50%.
And so far in 2008, what are the numbers indicating?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have the stats yet for 2008. It takes a time for a medical examiner to provide analysis and to have feedback to us as to what the results are. However, we are continuing to have a rise in the number of fatalities, and most of these fatalities occur at night. And of course, nighttime we have a lot of drinking. At the present time, we have 28 fatalities compared to last year, where we were sitting at 21.
Does any particular case stand out in your mind, Sergeant?
Unfortunately, I do have one that pops into my mind. It happened on November the 4th of 2005. It's early in the morning. We got the call for a wrong-way driver on IH-10 that had a crash with another car, and we had 2 confirmed fatalities at the scene and possibility of more. So we headed out there that morning. It was cold, and it was just something you don't expect at that hour of the morning, to have a wrong-way driver on IH-10. So we arrived at the scene, and we saw the scene, and it looked like a bomb had exploded. There was debris all over, spread out for hundreds and hundreds of yards. And of course, there, lying on the ground, we have a 3-year-old little boy, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. And lying close to him is his mother. She was 23 years old. Both of those individuals lost their lives instantly, and then the driver of the same car, the husband, was taken to the hospital. He was in critical condition and unconscious. And then we have the other part there, the suspect. The suspect's a young 20-year-old male. He's a college student, university student, and he had been drinking and driving, and he had all the signs of intoxication. He was taken to the hospital, and at the hospital we did, of course, our normal routine of blood draw, and that yielded our evidence for this case.
What kind of evidence was presented in this case?
Well, in this case, we used, of course, the blood evidence. He was above the .08, which is the legal limit for driving. And there was other things that we used, such as there was a MySpace page that he had. We were aware of that, and we quickly captured it. And he boasted that he used to party, and that he used to drink, and that was all stuff that we could use against him. So there was a whole bunch of witnesses that came forth to assist us with driving facts and what they observed that day, and we were able to have a successful prosecution.
Is this becoming an epidemic in young adults, do you see?
Well, the word epidemic really doesn't fit. I would say, though, it is a persistent problem. The problem is that we are seeing a continuing rotation, how would you say, the cycle continues, where we see the same amount of alcohol-related deaths every year, and they're not coming down. They're staying pretty consistent at about 50%, which is too much. And we are seeing a lot of young kids out there drinking and driving. So we need to address those issues. Drinking, last year, we issued citations to 1,809 persons for either minors in possession or minors consuming alcohol. And that's quite a significant number. It's telling us that we have a problem. And those are just the ones that are cited. Of course, there's so many more that aren't cited. But we need for the community to wake up and say, hey, this is enough. We've had enough. We have to stop the cycle of believing that drinking and driving is socially acceptable. We have to stop that and show that it causes a lot of hurt to a lot of people.
And getting back to the case, Sergeant, what was the final verdict?
He was found guilty, and he was given 2 concurrent sentences for each count of manslaughter, intoxication manslaughter, 12 years each. Plus, in addition to the 12 years after he gets out of jail, he's going to have to serve 10 years of probation. So he has a long, long time where he's going to be involved with the police in some way or other. Probation, incarceration, has a lot of ramifications for drinking and driving.
And Sergeant, what is the message the San Antonio Police Department wants the public to know concerning DWIs?
We're doing our part. We have a lot of enforcement out there. DWI shift. We have overtime by federal grant money. Officers are hired for overtime, DWI enforcement. So we're doing a lot on our part, but we need the public to join us. We need them to join us and tell us, look, we have to have a designated driver. I believe in that. If they're going to go and party, do so, but do so in a safe manner. Do it in a way that you're going to be able to say, I'm going to get home, have it planned out how you're going to get home, and if you're beyond that and you're out, call a cab. Call a cab, get home safely, or catch the bus, or better still, just call a friend. Anything to avoid drinking and driving, though. That's the main thing you have to do, avoid drinking and driving.
Sergeant, thanks for taking the time to speak with us this afternoon.
You're welcome.
And when we come back to Behind the Badge, Officer Trujillo will have one final word with the Chief of Police.
This year there's going to be some changes to Fiesta. one of the events, the carnival, will be moved to the Alamo Dome. So in effect, this year Fiesta will stretch from I-35 and the Market Square clear across the city to the Alamo Dome once you encompass La Villita. Do you think it'd make it easier for people to find parking that want to attend these events? What's your perception on
It'll
it?
be easier. There's going to be parking right over at the Alamo Dome. I think it takes a lot of the congestion and the tightness that was created downtown by the carnival, and it eliminates that. Of course, we're still going to have the crowds at Market Square.
One more time.
Of course, we're still going to have the crowds at Market Square, but I think that just removing that carnival piece of it to the Alamo Dome is a plus.
Chief, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to accommodate us. Are there any last words that you have for our viewers out there as far as their participation in Fiesta events and celebrating safely?
We want everybody that comes down to Fiesta and visits this great city of San Antonio to have a great time. But just as importantly, we want everybody to be safe. And we're going to be out there making sure they're safe, as you well know. I'm sure you're going to be working Fiesta. But we want everybody to come down and enjoy themselves and get home in one piece.
Now, more with Chief McManus and his recent visit to Lee High School.
And then someone came out on stage and said, look at the person next to you and tell them goodbye, because you may never see them again. Because tonight they may be killed in a drunk driving accident. That's pretty blunt, it's pretty scary. And it wasn't that night, but it was not too long after that Louis Reggiano and Lizzie Widener, my two friends, were killed in that drunk driving accident. There are people out there. You're their world. You are their world. Your families, teachers right now, you are their world. There are people out there, may not be your family, your friends, people younger than you, people older than you, people a lot older than you, look at you and they watch what you do. They want to be you. There are people out there who want to be you. There are old folks out there who would trade positions with you any day. They want to be young again. There's young kids out there that see what y'all are doing, and they want to be you. They want to be your age. They want to be going through what you're going to go through. All the things that you have in store for you for the rest of your lives, especially the rest of your young lives, all the new experiences and the things that you look forward to. College, getting married, having kids, having a great job, all those things that happen in one's life. The point that I'm trying to make with that is that your lives are so important. And you are so valuable to others in your life. Some that don't even know you. So when you go out to party and somebody sticks a beer in front of your face or sticks a joint in front of your face, think about all those things. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be in jail? Ever wondered? Do you know how many people's lives are wasted in jail? I've visited prisons. Believe it or not, even as a police officer for 33 years, I don't think that jail is a place where I like to put people. I've visited jails, visited people in jails. And you know what you hear when you walk through prisons at night? You hear men crying. Weeping out loud because they miss their families, they miss their kids, they miss their wives, they miss the freedom. If you want to know what jail is like, Go find a room, a real small room, like 6 by 10, with not very much in it, and lock yourself in there, and stay in there for as long as you can. You're not working, you're not being productive, you don't have any company, you can't pick up the phone and make a call, you can't walk to the refrigerator and grab a soda or grab a snack, you can't do anything except think, and your thoughts drive you crazy because you're stuck there. So all these things are related to the consequences of drinking and driving and just getting in trouble in general. So I ask you to think about it. And you know, I'm not normally this serious when I talk, but this is a serious issue because people's lives are at stake here. Your lives are at stake here, and your futures are at stake here. So, like everyone else who has spoken to you already, and like everyone else who will speak to you after me, please think when you're out. Think about consequences. Think about your family. Don't get caught up in the spirit of a party or spring break because there's an aftermath to that. And the aftermath of that could be really, really devastating to your lives and your family's lives and everyone that knows you. I wish you a happy spring break. May God bless you, and good luck to those of you who are graduating this year.
That's it for this episode of Behind the Badge. Hope everybody enjoys their fiesta safely. We'll see you next month with a new show.